Hey comic fans, welcome back to Daryl D TV. I'm Daryl D and welcome to my Richard Corben comic collection. So far, part 8. 8 parts in now. This is the weird edition, if you will, the strange edition. We're going to talk about just a few books that are kind of off the beaten path that I kind of wanted to pull to the side and kind of talk about those a little bit. So we're gonna go that route today. Now, a lot of you guys who are very familiar with Richard Corben know that we're used to seeing him, or for the very longest time, we saw his work in a lot of indie books. He had his own publishing company, Fanagore, which he had a number of titles on there. And then later on, he definitely did some stuff with some of the comic magazines, 1984, eerie, creepy, heavy metal magazines like that. And then he had a nice long run with Dark Horse, where he did a number of titles and runs on that publishing company's roster, if you will. And then he did some other stuff for some other companies. But in the past videos that I've made, I've had people hit me up and they say, "Hey, I didn't know that he was in this book," or "I didn't know he did this kind of stuff," or whatever. And I go, "Yeah, me either. It was strange for me to find out some of this stuff too." So some of that stuff is what I really, wanted to point out. And a lot of times when I'm looking for Corben books, there's the magazines that I know of, and then some stuff I don't know. So I'll go on different websites and or just Google, and I'll just put his name in, and every now and then something that I'm completely unfamiliar with will pop up. And so these are some of those things that I just didn't know about that I kind of want to point out to you. Now, on one of the past videos, it might have even been the last video I made, I want to go back to one of those books just to give you an example of what I'm talking about that I showed you, that kind of off the beaten path. Now, this was on Vertigo, DC Vertigo, and this is called American Splendor. Now, if you were digging for some books and you came across this book, would you expect to see Corben in this book? I certainly wouldn't, but he definitely is. And there's multiple stories in here. This isn't Corben's artwork, but this story is the story that he illustrated. And so if you look at that, what does that look like? It is clearly a guy wrestling with the toilet. And that's the story. That's literally the story that Corben draws. He didn't write it, he just illustrated it. But you don't usually see that kind of stuff. You see, that's exactly what you get out of this story, is a man wrestling with a toilet. Not how you would normally see Corben, not Corben's element that you would normally see him in. You get the picture? Cool. So now you know kind of where we're going with this. Now, another one is also Vertigo DC, and he didn't work with DC Vertigo a whole lot, but this was another one. This one is called Strange Adventures. This is Strange Adventures number 3, and Corben illustrated a story called The Split right there. Not his artwork on the outside, but that's the story he did, that he drew. This is a story about an older couple who lives in a lighthouse, and they kind of maintain and do the maintenance on the giant clock that's in this lighthouse or whatnot. And they seem to think that there's some type of evil presence or whatever, which that is kind of up Corben's alley, but it's kind of a silly comedic story, and you don't usually find Corben doing a whole lot of humor. So everything about this book just kind of threw me off in terms of Corben and what how I'm used to seeing him. Now maybe some of you guys out there, you know, you're well aware of stuff like this, but for me it was kind of I wasn't familiar with this kind of stuff at all. So that's another one, Strange Adventures number 3. Now this next one really threw me for a loop. This one is WS is the company, I guess. Eye of the Storm. This is the first issue. This is from 03. Masks. Too Hot for TV. Now look at that. Now at first glance, this superhero and that villain just looks silly to me. This is nothing that I would normally pick up. No, this is not Corben's art. He does some art on the inside. Now, I was surprised to see Corben in something like this. Let's just open this up and take a quick look, because this story, or the story you see on the cover, is not actually the story that Corben has anything to do with. In fact, if I recall correctly, they stuck Corben way in the back. Well, actually, he's in the middle towards the back. And this story is uncensored. Mask Too Hot for TV. So, first of all, take a look at this guy. That's our villain, I guess. Kind of weird looking dude. But then if you look at some of this art, this is like humor, like goofy type of humor. You know, a little different than what I'm used to seeing. Look at some of this stuff. So real, you see the frying pan? So real kind of goofy humor, whatnot. Guy sprays himself in the face. Guy gets put in a chokehold, and he looks real silly. So this book has like 5 stories in it, but the title story is the one that Corben illustrated. Kind of weird for Richard, in my opinion. Goofy characters, goofy villains, goofy story, kind of goofy art. Love the art, still love the Richard Corben art, but definitely a bit of a stretch from, you know, what we normally see with Richard. I'm sure some of you guys would agree with that. Okay, moving on. This next one, you know, went in a bunch of different directions. This next one is called Just Imagine Stan Lee's Sandman. Have any of you guys ever seen this book? Now, what really threw me for a loop is, first of all, it's on DC Comics. And Stan Lee in DC Comics. That hasn't happened a whole lot that I know of. And then we got this Sandman story. There are, I think, a few different Sandman stories in here. Let's pop this open and see what they have Richard doing in here. So this is like a really thick book. I believe this was 2002, and they stuck Richard all the way in the back. And this opening page, this opening art is kind of cool for that story. And this is the story about a homeless bum alcoholic bum, who drinks so much that, you know, he dreams about monsters that are after him, and Then he wakes up and he tries to tell people, what's going on. And it's only, what, 2 pages long. Like literally a 2-page story. And that's it. So, yeah, that was strange. Because a lot of times, like I said, when I'm searching for Corben books, it'll say that Corben is in the book, and I go, oh, are you sure? And try to do a little research to make sure that that he's actually in the book, that they're actually accurate. Because I've come across a number of books. Well, they'll have Richard Corben listed as being the artist, and he's not in a book anywhere. He doesn't appear anywhere, and they've gotten it completely wrong. So this was a bit of a gamble, until I actually, while doing my research, I saw his name way down there. Then I knew that was a safe bet to purchase that book. Okay, so I just have one more that I want to show you guys. Now, this one is actually on Dark Horse, but what kind of threw me off is I didn't even notice until today that this was a Dark Horse book, because it doesn't look like your traditional Dark Horse. I bought this a while back, but this is a book called Serenity, and this version was the free comic book day version of it, even though I actually paid for this at a comic shop. But this is what that book looks like. So at first glance, would you expect to see Corben in there? I certainly wouldn't. That is until you zoom in and you see that there's also a Hellboy story and a story about aliens. So we know about, I've showed you the books I have. I have all of the Hellboy books, or so I thought, until I came across this one. The Hellboy books that Corben drew, I should say. So this first story, Serenity, is some goofy sci-fi type stuff. Goofy art to me. I wasn't really into it. And then the aliens, even though I'm not into aliens per se, the art there is definitely better than the Serenity art, but still nothing that I would be, interested in. But the Hellboy story is classic Corben art that we all know and love. The strange part for me is that, like I said, at first glance, when I first saw this book, I didn't know it was a Dark Horse book. I didn't know this until right before I started recording. So before that, it just looked like this to me. And the fact that they put this cool Hellboy story in between this corny story, corny to me, no disrespect to anybody, and this semi-corny alien story, just seems kind of out of place, as far as what we're used to seeing from Richard. So yeah, those are, the books that I wanted to show you for this video. And if you look at some of the past videos, every now and then you'll see a few books and you'll go, strange, I don't recall seeing that before. And I know that to be the case because it was other people that actually pointed those books out to me. Some of them I definitely, had that mindset when I saw them at first glance, like, wow, Richard's in this book. Yeah, he's in that book. So that's all for now. I kind of pulled these out of a nice little stack of other Corben books that I'll be showing you guys a little later in the future. But for right now, I just wanted to pull these to the side and kind of show you and give you my perspective on what I thought with those books. So hope you enjoyed the video. That's all for right now, and we'll be back very soon with my Richard Corben comic collection so far, part 9. Hope to see you soon, and until then, you guys be safe.